There was a minister that came in, his gas tank was leaking and wanted to know if he could repair it. He wanted him to leave it on the vehicle and wanted him to weld it while it was on there. Well, my grandfather said, well, yeah, I think I can do that, and proceeded on to start to weld it. And the minister said, well, I think I'm just going to step outside. And he said, no, I want you to stay in here. He says, if this thing blows up, I want you with me.
My grandfather was born in 1889 in the Dakota Territory, the same year that South Dakota became a state. He was born in Centerville and grew up in Centerville and graduated from Centerville High School. Out of high school, he wanted to pursue his automotive career, picked up and moved to Albion, Michigan, and worked for his older brother in an automobile and bicycle shop there. That's where he learned his trade and his welding, his profession, which he's really good at. So. Eventually moved back to Centerville. My great-grandfather wanted someone back to manage the farm and run it. After my great-grandfather passed away, the farm got sold and really didn't have a place to be after 1925. So Mr. Kunkel, my grandmother's dad, of course had land out by Nolan, so he needed somebody out there to, help manage the farm and run it. And that's what brought him out there to the Nolan area.
The great big spree, the jazz age, is over, all over. In the 1920s, the great American word was prosperity. Now the 30s have begun and there is a new word, depression.
A lot of people gave up and would try to move somewhere and just walk away from everything. And he stood his ground and made a go of it for his family.
Managing and running that Kunkel Ranch and trying to start his own part of the land himself, and getting a house built, it was a huge struggle, I'm sure.
You're used to having some good years, but continued on for several years in a row, and a lot of people lost everything. But I think with them starting that garage, they were able to hang on to their farm ground and continue on later.
His career was fixing things and working on automobiles, so he decided to take some of the inheritance money that he had from the sale of the farm back in Centerville and build that garage and started in that automotive repair business. And that was what started it. After the garage itself was completed, he put his shingle or his name up there, Ray E. Noble Garage. They used some special paint, coal tar type of paint or something that they used on coating fuel tanks, underground fuel tanks or something, but it lasted for a lot of years. And you can just vaguely see it now, the letters there. Pretty well-known landmark.
Yeah, it was a pretty main route to go from Rapid to Pierre and kind of a halfway in-between point on Highway 14. And back in the late 20s, it had to be a long journey. Those cars didn't go that fast back then and probably didn't have a heater if you were traveling in the winter, and probably were lucky to have an enclosed cab. So that was probably a good spot to have a place to warm up or cool down in the summer because you're in the middle of nowhere.
There was a lot of people that depended on him to get the repairs they needed done so they could maybe harvest their crops or whatever if a machine broke or something, and he would work sometimes all night, tearing it apart, grinding the valves, welding a block or a head on an engine, to get people moving and going again. He was good at that.
Stories are that he was one of the first acetylene welders in the area out there, and he was very good at it.
My grandfather had a mind that didn't work like everybody's. I think he could just look at something and he could tell how to fix it or what needed to be done. It was amazing. One person called he's like a wizard with a torch. He could fix about anything.
Well, rumor has it that he always said that he could weld anything but a broken heart or the crack of dawn.
And from there, they just expanded every year, tried to make it a little bit better, and people stopped to have something repaired or maybe get some fuel or whatever and wanted something to eat. So then they started the little diner.
It was a nice place for people to stop in and have a bite to eat, or they had a little breezeway in between that you could go in and cool off or eat outside if you wanted. Pretty convenient, it looked like.
Between those two, the garage and restaurant business, They were able to survive, and there was a big business there for a lot of years. A lot of people stopped there.
There was one time when we was out there in the garage. There was an Indian family came along. They had camped along the road somewhere and had water in the radiator, and they let it freeze up. Broke the block, and they got up to my garage, and I welded the block. It took quite a while to do it, so they didn't leave till the next day. They slept in the garage, and we fed them their supper, and we fed them their breakfast. And when he left, he liked $10. I haven't money enough to pay me for what I did. He said, I'll send it to you. But you know, in about a month's time, I got a letter. That's the first winter I had the garage out there.
If somebody came through and if they couldn't pay their full bill, I mean, he was still going to help them out and not going to leave somebody stranded. And people were kind enough that they would get back with him and usually pay him back. I'm sure not everybody did, but majority of people are good enough people that make sure he got squared up.
Integrity and honesty, always willing to help and lend a helping hand to whoever needed it, and then I think that's, what would you say, that is kind of their legacy. I think that they were honest people and friendly and tried to help people.
Whether, over the years, the cars, got better and people probably could go faster and just get on by and make it on to the next place. But times changed and decided that there was probably a better job in town where you could make a living.
We operated that garage out there from 1928 till 1940. And she was working from 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. It was too hard on her, so I said we would just close it up.
Oh, she was quite important to the business, I believe. Well, I remember she was a really good cook. I can see why people kept going back there to eat. It's probably one of the first truck stops.
If the walls could talk and the area around it, it has some really interesting stories to tell.
Well, the building's starting to deteriorate quite a bit. It'd be nice to keep it preserved for the future, keep it so it doesn't fall over, and it'd be nice to get it as a historical landmark. It's been there for close to 100 years now.
You'd like to see what's there preserved at least as much as you can for people to maybe talk about as they're driving down the highway.
I know a lot of artists have used that for paintings and photographs, and just about everybody who travels that road, I think, at one point or another have looked at it and wondered, who is this person and what's that old garage about? So it's kind of nice to tell that story.